Stop right there before you scroll past this video. Before you dismiss what I'm about to share with you, I need you to understand something fundamental about your life right now. Your environment is not neutral. The space you live in, the objects you choose to keep around you, the energy flowing through your home, all of it is either lifting you up or slowly draining you. There is no middle ground. I'm going to reveal 5 things that are sabotaging your potential every single day without you even realizing it. 5 things that are probably in your home right now, draining your energy, clouding your mind, and keeping you stuck in patterns that prevent you from becoming who you could be. And no, these are not random ideas pulled from a magazine or generic self-help tips. They are discoveries I've made after years of studying human psychology, neuroscience, and the deep connection between our physical environment and our mental and emotional state. Most people live their entire lives without realizing their surroundings are programming them. Every object in your home sends signals to your subconscious mind. Every corner of clutter tells your brain that chaos is acceptable. Every broken item you keep whispers to your inner self that dysfunction is normal. And here's the truth that can change everything. When you remove these 5 elements, you don't just clean up your home, you literally rewire your brain for success. The first element you must eliminate immediately is broken items you've been meaning to fix. Yes, that flickering lamp, that drawer that always sticks, the picture frame with the cracked glass, the chair with the wobbly leg. Take a quick mental inventory right now. How many things like this are in your home? How many objects are functioning at less than their full capacity? Here's what's happening in your subconscious. Every time you encounter one of these broken items, your brain registers that mediocrity is acceptable. Your nervous system adapts to dysfunction as if it were normal. Without realizing it, you're training yourself to settle for less than optimal in every area of your life. When you wake up and that lamp flickers, your mind says, "This is fine." When you open that stubborn drawer for the 100th time, your brain accepts that things don't have to work properly. But the impact is far deeper than you imagine. These broken items create what I call micro-stress. Every time something doesn't work as it should, your stress hormones spike slightly. You may not consciously notice it, but your body does. By the end of the day, you've had dozens of these tiny stress responses, and together, they're enough to leave you feeling drained and irritable without knowing why. In my studies of the homes of highly successful people, I found a consistent pattern. They repair things immediately or remove them entirely. They intuitively understand what neuroscience now confirms. Our external environment directly shapes our internal state. When everything in your home works as it should, your mind begins to expect the same from you. In other words, you program yourself for high performance. The opposite is also true. Living surrounded by failures and defects trains your mind to tolerate them in your personal, professional, and emotional life. And here's another hidden cost. Broken items drain your creative energy. Every time you see that cracked mirror or that door that won't close properly, a small part of your attention gets occupied by the thought, "I should fix that." In psychology, this is called an open loop, an unresolved task that consumes mental bandwidth even when you're not actively thinking about it. It's like trying to use a high-powered computer with dozens of programs running in the background. It still works, but never at full capacity. And here's the most revealing part. When you eliminate these broken items, you're not just freeing up physical space. You're sending a clear declaration to the universe about your standards. You're telling your subconscious, "I deserve to be surrounded by things that work perfectly." You're raising the bar for what you accept in your life. And almost like magic, when you raise that bar in your physical environment, you raise it everywhere else. I've seen people completely transform their careers just by fixing or removing everything broken in their homes. Because when they reprogram their minds to expect excellence, they stop settling. They stop training themselves to accept mediocrity, and they start programming themselves for peak performance. This is just the beginning, because in the next part, we're going to talk about the second element you must remove immediately, and this one might hurt even more than letting go of a broken object. The second element you must remove immediately is everything that belongs to a past version of yourself, a version that no longer exists. And I'm not just talking about clothes that no longer fit, but any object that's anchored to a you you've already outgrown. Clothes from past sizes, books about topics you're no longer interested in, equipment or tools for hobbies you've abandoned, decorations that reflect who you used to be, but not who you're choosing to become now. This is where most people get stuck, and I understand why. These objects represent money you once invested, dreams you once had, identities you once embraced. But here's the harsh truth. Holding on to all of this is like trying to drive while only looking in the rearview mirror. You're anchoring yourself to a past that prevents your future from emerging. Your home should be a launch pad for the person you're becoming, not a museum preserving who you used to be. Every object tied to that past self is taking up physical, mental, and energetic space that could be filled with things aligned to your current vision. Think about that guitar you haven't touched in years, the exercise machine gathering dust, the books from a career path you walked away from. You're not just looking at objects, you're looking at silent reminders of abandoned projects and unfulfilled goals. And every time you see them, your subconscious revives the story, "I left this unfinished." There's something even more subtle happening here. These items keep you emotionally tied to old beliefs and identities. They might be reinforcing the idea that you're inconsistent, or that it's safer not to try something new, just in case you fail again. The result? You sabotage your present to protect yourself from your past. Clothing is a particularly powerful example, and if you keep smaller sizes every time you see them, you reinforce the feeling that you're not there yet. And if you keep larger sizes just in case, you're reinforcing the expectation of going backward. In both cases, you trap yourself in a constant state of dissatisfaction with your body and self-image. The same goes for books and learning materials. It's not about throwing away all knowledge, but about asking, does this serve my current goals and interests, or does it only remind me of a stage that's over? Because just like a computer can't run at full speed with outdated software, your mind can't focus on the present if it's cluttered with information from a you that no longer exists. When you release these items, you create what I call identity space. This isn't just physical space, it's mental and emotional room for new aspects of yourself to emerge. It's giving permission for new interests, habits, and relationships to take shape, reflecting who you are today and where you're going. And I'll tell you this step can feel like a small death, because letting go of the past inevitably means facing the fact that you are no longer that person. But it's also a rebirth. And if you do it intentionally, what comes next often surpasses what you've left behind. In the next part, we're going to talk about the third element you must remove. And this one doesn't just affect what you have in your home, it directly impacts how you use your time and attention every single day. The third element you must remove immediately is anything in your home that fuels automatic consumption and passive distraction. And here I need you to be brutally honest with yourself, because many of these things seem harmless, even normal, but they are actively shaping your brain to react on autopilot instead of living with intention. I'm talking about that stack of magazines you buy but never read, the remote control always within arm's reach, ready to turn on the TV the second you sit down, the snacks conveniently placed around the house so you can eat without thinking, the catalogs and flyers piling up on your coffee table, multiplying as if on their own. Each of these items trains your mind to seek instant external stimulation instead of building the ability to generate interest and satisfaction from within. It's a form of silent conditioning. Instead of creating, you consume. Instead of choosing consciously, you react without thinking. Instead of directing your attention, you let others hijack it. The human brain is wired to conserve energy, which means it will always look for the path of least resistance. If your environment makes it easiest to flip on a screen, open a bag of processed food, or scroll through pictures of someone else's life, that's exactly what you'll do. And you'll do it often enough that it becomes your default mode. The problem is this pattern steals your most valuable resource, your attention. Without attention, there's no creativity. Without attention, there's no deep learning. Without attention, there's no true connection, not with others and not with yourself. And here's the dangerous part. When your attention is fragmented day after day, you lose the ability to sustain effort over time. You get used to instant gratification and become less willing to engage in processes that require patience. This is why so many projects you start lose momentum before you finish them. Not because you lack talent or capacity, but because your attention has been trained to scatter. When I studied the spaces of highly creative and productive people, I found something in common. They had redesigned their environments so that conscious decisions were the easiest option. Food wasn't left out in plain sight. If they wanted a snack, they had to prepare it. Entertainment devices weren't always ready to use. They had to make a deliberate choice before turning them on. Inspirational materials weren't shopping catalogs, but tools to create and innovate. This isn't about stripping all pleasure and fun from your life. It's about making sure your leisure choices are just that. Choices, not impulses. Because when you choose consciously, you're more likely to pick activities that nourish you instead of draining you. Catalogs and magazines deserve special mention. They disguise their effect under the idea that they inform or inspire. But in reality, most are designed to create dissatisfaction and comparison. Polished images of lifestyles you don't have, products you don't need, experiences you weren't looking for. Each page is a subtle invitation to feel like you're missing something. When you remove these items from your home, your mind begins to generate its own stimulation. You rediscover the ability to be bored without instantly reaching for a screen. And in that space, original ideas start to emerge. You uncover interests and talents buried under layers of passive consumption. You become the creator of your time, not a passive spectator of your life. And in the next part, we're going to talk about a far more dangerous type of object than a remote control or a bag of chips. Things that don't just take. The fourth element you must remove immediately is anything in your home that represents a promise you made to yourself and never kept. The fourth element you must remove immediately is anything in your home that represents a promise you made to yourself and never kept. And I'm not talking about fleeting whims you lost interest in. I mean commitments that once mattered deeply to you. Things you bought with a clear intention, but that now just sit there collecting dust, silently watching you every time you walk by. It could be that stationary bike you swore you'd use every morning, the dumbbells that were going to get you back into your best shape, the brushes and canvases you bought to finally start painting again, the sewing machine you dreamed of mastering, the online course you never opened, or the high-end kitchen gear you were going to use to transform your cooking habits. On the surface, they look like abandoned objects, but in reality, they're far more dangerous than ordinary clutter. Because every time you see them, your subconscious hears the same message. You don't follow through on what you say you'll do. And when you hear that message enough times, it begins to shape your self-confidence. In psychology, this is known as learned helplessness. When you repeatedly start things but don't carry them through, your mind starts anticipating that you'll quit again. And without realizing it, you approach every new project with less energy and less faith in yourself. It's as if part of you is whispering, "Why bother trying? I probably won't finish anyway." The impact isn't just emotional, it's also physiological. Because every time you see one of these reminders, you get microdoses of guilt and frustration. You may not always notice it consciously, but your nervous system does. And over time, those little hits of disappointment accumulate, draining your motivation and energy. Health and fitness-related items are especially damaging. They don't just represent an unfulfilled commitment. They represent the fact that you haven't prioritized your physical well-being. And that creates a vicious cycle. You feel bad for not taking care of yourself, which makes you delay starting even more, which makes you feel worse. The same applies to creative materials. When you leave painting, music, or hands-on projects unfinished, it's like cutting off a vital channel of self-expression. And without a creative outlet, life starts to feel flatter, more mechanical, more disconnected from your essence. And then there are the educational materials, unopened books, forgotten courses, unused software. These are perhaps the most subtle because they remind you not only of what you didn't complete, but of what you should be learning or mastering. That constant feeling of being behind is one of the biggest drains on long-term motivation. When you remove these items, you're doing far more than clearing physical space. You're breaking the mental pattern of accumulating unfinished business. You're freeing yourself from silent reminders of, "I'm not consistent." And you're starting to rebuild trust in your own word and your ability to commit. This doesn't mean you're giving up on those goals forever. It means you're honestly acknowledging that right now they're not part of your real priorities. And if they ever do become a priority again, you'll approach them with genuine commitment, not with the weight of all your past someday as. Self-trust is built by following through on what you say you'll do, even if what you say is, "I'm not doing this right now." And that kind of honesty is the foundation for all real change. In the next part, we're going to talk about the last of the 5 elements. And here, we're not just talking about objects, and we're talking about the energy you still share through them with people who may no longer deserve a place in your life. The 5th element you must remove immediately is anything that keeps you connected to people or relationships that drain your energy. And this, without a doubt, is the hardest one to face, because we're not just talking about physical items. We're talking about emotional and energetic ties that remain alive through them. It could be a gift from someone who constantly criticized you or made you feel small. Photographs that, even if they show a smile, pull you back into a stage of life when you were struggling. Letters, keepsakes, clothing, or accessories from a relationship that ended badly. Contact information for people who, every time you interacted with them, left you feeling empty or diminished. What most people don't realize is that every object in your home is like an antenna. It transmits an emotional frequency. And if that object comes from someone who drained you emotionally, it's still radiating that energy into your space, even years after the relationship ended. This isn't just poetic metaphor, and it's backed by science and personal experience. Neuroscience has shown that every time you see an image, your brain reactivates the same neural networks that lit up at the moment that image was taken. That means if the photo is tied to a painful period, every time you look at it, you're reliving, even subtly, the emotions of that time. Gifts from toxic people are even trickier. On the surface, they may seem like acts of kindness, but the object carries the real emotional imprint of the relationship you had with that person. And if that relationship was full of criticism, emotional abuse, or constant draining, every time you use or see that gift, you're unconsciously reinforcing that dynamic. Even the contacts in your phone matter. Keeping the number of someone who always took without giving or projected their negativity onto you is like leaving a door slightly open for that energy to return at any moment. Even if you never call them, your subconscious knows they're still there. When you decide to let go of these items, you're reclaiming your energetic sovereignty. You're cutting invisible threads that still tie you to people and moments that don't belong in the life you're building now. And in doing so, you create space for relationships that support, inspire, and push you forward. This process can stir up intense emotions. You may feel sadness for relationships that, though harmful, were once important to you. You may feel anger when you realize how much time and energy you gave to people who didn't value it. You may even feel an initial emptiness because you're releasing a part of your history. But that's part of the healing. Grief clears the ground, and that empty space is exactly what allows the new to grow. When you finish removing these 5 elements, broken items, belongings from a past self, triggers of automatic consumption, broken promises, and toxic ties, you're not just transforming your home. You're transforming your mind, your energy, and your sense of what you deserve. And in the next part, we're going to dive into what happens inside you when you start living in an environment free of these burdens. Because what changes isn't just what you see. It's the way you think, feel, and act every single day. When you start living in an environment free from those 5 elements, something happens that most people don't expect. Your mind starts to breathe. Suddenly, you notice a new kind of silence. The constant mental background noise of "I should" is gone. You're no longer bombarded with dozens of little mental interruptions every time you walk into a room. It's as if you've turned off countless invisible notifications that had been buzzing without you even realizing it. The first thing you notice is mental clarity. Your brain is no longer wasting resources processing things that are out of place or tied to negative emotions. That freed up mental energy naturally starts flowing toward what really matters, making decisions, creating, planning, solving problems. And the shift isn't about becoming a completely new person overnight. It's about finally operating as the version of you that's always been there, just buried under the noise. The second change is more physical energy. Most people don't connect clutter or the emotional weight of objects to fatigue, but every single stimulus your nervous system takes in, every broken thing, every unfinished project, every toxic reminder creates micro tensions. And when those micro tensions disappear, your nervous system relaxes. You sleep better, you move more freely, you start feeling lighter as if you've set down a heavy load you didn't know you were carrying. The third shift is improved focus. You're no longer constantly pulled towards small visual reminders of what's wrong, unfinished, or irrelevant. So when you sit down to work or learn, you can sustain your concentration for much longer. And that's where the magic happens. The more you focus, the more you accomplish. The more you accomplish, the more confident you feel. But perhaps the deepest change is in your self-image. Because strange as it sounds, the objects around you act as a silent mirror of what you believe you deserve. If you're surrounded by broken, incomplete, or meaningless things, your mind assumes that's your standard. But if you surround yourself only with what works, inspires, and reflects the person you're becoming, your brain updates its definition of normal for you. And when your internal standard rises, everything else begins to align. This is what I call environmental integrity. When what you see outside is in harmony with what you want to feel and experience inside. It's a state where every object in your space contributes, even in a small way, to the life you're building. And here's the fascinating part. This change doesn't stay within your home's walls. It starts to show up in how you interact with others, in the opportunities you say yes or no to, and even in how you use your time. Because when your environment is aligned with you, it becomes a constant reminder of your priorities and your worth. But here's the challenge. Many people start to feel a subtle resistance at this point. That inner voice saying, "This is good enough, you don't need to keep changing, you've done plenty." If you want this transformation to last, you have to take the next step. In the next part, we'll talk about how to maintain this new frequency in your environment and prevent old energies and habits from slipping back in without you noticing. Maintaining the new frequency in your environment isn't about doing one big, deep clean and then forgetting about it. It's an ongoing process, almost like tending a garden. If you don't check on it and nurture it, the weeds, in the form of unnecessary objects, old energies, and automatic habits, will grow back before you realize it. The first step is to create regular review rituals. This doesn't mean a massive yearly overhaul, but setting aside a few minutes each week to walk through your space with full awareness. Ask yourself, object by object, does this still work? Does this inspire me or drain me? Does this represent the life I want now or a past version of myself? When you train your mind to ask these questions regularly, you stop accumulating by default. The second step is learning to close loops quickly. If something breaks, fix it or release it within days, not months. If a project loses its meaning, let go of the materials instead of letting them become silent reminders of what you didn't finish. This prevents those open loops we talked about earlier and keeps your energy focused on what truly matters. The third key to sustaining this vibration is to filter what comes in, because there's no point in clearing your space if you keep filling it with the same energy you just removed. Before accepting an item, making a purchase, or even taking a gift, ask, does this truly add value to my life? Is it functional and in good condition? Is it in alignment with the person I'm choosing to be? If the answer isn't a definite yes, don't let it in. Another important aspect is managing the invisible. Your environment isn't just the physical space you can see, it's also your devices, your contact lists, your digital folders. Apply the same criteria here. Delete files, photos, and connections that no longer serve you. Because digital clutter drains mental and emotional energy too. Finally, there's emotional awareness. Keeping your space aligned with you requires paying attention to how you feel in it. If you notice discomfort, tension, or fatigue in a specific area of your home, stop and observe. There may be something there, an object, a memory, an energy that's lowering your frequency without you realizing it. When you apply these principles consistently, your environment becomes an active partner in your evolution. Every time you walk into your home, you feel it nourishing and supporting you, silently reminding you, this is your new standard. And in the next part, we're going to go even deeper, because it's not just about keeping your space clean and aligned, it's about using it strategically to speed up your personal growth and bring your goals into reality faster and with more clarity. Using your space strategically to accelerate your growth isn't just about keeping it tidy and clean, it's about turning it into a physical extension of your goals and the person you are choosing to become. It's making sure every corner, every object, and every detail silently reminds you of who you are and where you're going. The first step is to anchor your goals visually. And I'm not only talking about vision boards or motivational quotes taped to the wall. I mean surrounding yourself with symbols that carry deep personal meaning. It could be a photo that inspires you to travel to your dream destination, a tool that represents your ideal craft or career, a plant that symbolizes your growth, or even an heirloom that reminds you of the resilience in your roots. These elements work as silent triggers, keeping your attention aligned with what you want to create. The second step is to design energy-specific zones. Your environment directly influences your mental state, so you can use it to activate different sides of yourself. A reading or meditation corner free from screens or distractions. A work area clear of clutter where your mind knows it's in creation mode. A small space to move your body, reminding you that physical energy is part of your success. When you enter each zone, your brain associates that place with a specific function, helping you get into the right mindset faster. Another principle is to align your environment with the lifestyle you want, not the one you currently have. If you want to feel more organized, create a visually appealing and easy to maintain order system. If you want more creativity, keep materials visible that invite you to experiment and explore. If you're aiming for greater abundance, add details, even small ones, that communicate quality and care. Your brain responds to the cues your environment gives it, and if those cues match your desired future, you'll start behaving as if you're already there. It's also important to eliminate the neutral. Objects that neither inspire nor bother you may seem harmless, but they take up physical and mental space that could be used for something that actually uplifts you. If something doesn't spark emotion, energy, or clear usefulness, it's better to let it go. Every object should have a purpose or a story you truly want to keep alive. And don't forget the sensory factor. Smell, lighting, temperature, and texture all send signals to your nervous system. If your space smells pleasant, is well lit, and feels good to the touch, your body more easily enters a state of well-being and creative openness. And that state is the fertile ground for any change you want to make. When you use your environment this way, it stops being just a place you live in. It becomes a supportive ecosystem, a silent coach pushing you toward your best self. And the most powerful part is that this connection between space and goals creates a virtuous cycle. The more aligned your environment is, the more aligned your actions become, and vice versa. In the next part, we'll close the loop by talking about how this transformation in your space turns into real opportunities, better relationships, and tangible results in your daily life. When you transform your space and align it with the person you want to be, the changes you experience don't just stay inside you. They begin to show up in your external life in ways that might feel like coincidence at first, but are in reality the direct result of your new frequency. The first thing that happens is you start attracting different opportunities. People, projects, and situations that once seemed far away begin to appear naturally. It's not unfounded magic. It's that by raising your standards and acting from a clearer identity, you become more selective and intentional about what you accept and what you reject. And that clarity filters your reality. The second change is an improvement in your relationships. When your space is no longer polluted with ties to the past or draining energies, you create a healthier inner environment. And from there, you interact with others from a place of respect, self-assurance, and emotional clarity. You become more open to people who uplift you and less tolerant of dynamics you once endured. It's not unusual for new friends, partners, or collaborators to show up who mirror your upgraded self. You'll also notice a shift in your productivity and focus. With an environment free of distractions and filled with reminders of your goals, every hour of work becomes more efficient. You finish projects that previously lingered unfinished. You start meeting deadlines with less stress, and most importantly, you no longer feel like you're constantly working against the clock, because your energy flows without so many invisible blocks. Another profound effect is the boost in your self-esteem. Every time you walk into your home and see that everything is in order, with nothing reminding you of broken promises or toxic connections, you reinforce the belief that you deserve to live well. And that shows in how you carry yourself in the world, in your posture, your tone of voice, and the choices you make. Even your physical and emotional health benefits. Less visual stress and fewer objects carrying negative energy reduce the chronic tension on your nervous system. You rest better, breathe deeper, and feel lighter in your own body. And as a result, you have more energy to take care of yourself, exercise, cook better meals, and simply enjoy your day more fully. Many people describe this shift as living in a new life without changing cities, because while the address stays the same, the experience feels entirely different. It's as if you've reprogrammed not only your home, but also the way you interact with everything outside of it.